The shadow in the mirror. Anna woke before dawn. The silence of the apartment carried a strange weight. Something unseen seemed to hang in the air, dense and almost tangible. She lay still, eyes open, staring into the dark ceiling, listening. The silence itself seemed to breathe. She had dreamed of walking down a long corridor lined with mirrors. In every reflection she saw herself, yet not quite herself. The woman in the glass smiled when Anna's face stayed solemn, tilted her head as though mocking her. The most terrifying moment came at the last mirror. There stood not Anna, but a tall shadow with a hollow face, her own features blurred, erased. Anna had screamed in her sleep, and the scream had wrenched her awake. She rose, switched on the lamp, and stepped to the hallway mirror. Her reflection looked weary, faint shadows beneath the eyes. Nothing strange, nothing frightening. Yet as she turned away, she thought the reflection lagged a heartbeat behind, only after a pause repeating her movement. Anna froze, fingers clutching the mirror's frame, until she convinced herself it had been an illusion. Weakness like that wasn't allowed. Her life was disciplined, every day carefully divided into hours. Translation work, trips to the office, assignments from clients, occasional dinners with colleagues. Nothing extra. Nothing dangerous. She had built this life for herself after leaving the past behind. How many years had it been? 10, 12? She avoided numbers. The past was another country, one she could never return to. Anna made strong coffee, sat at her desk, and opened her laptop. A French novel waited for its final translation. Work always saved her from unwanted thoughts. But today the sentences would not form. Her attention kept drifting back to the mirror in the hallway. It felt as if someone had stayed behind, on the other side of the glass. By day she tried to keep to her routine. She met a client in a cafe, discussed deadlines and payment. The man's mouth moved, but Anna found herself watching his lips without hearing the words. In the mirror behind him, the scene reflected differently. She sat alone, with an empty chair opposite. That evening, coming home, she found her apartment door ajar. Her heart slammed so hard it stole her breath. She always locked it twice. Always. Trembling, she pushed the door wide. Silence. Everything in its place, books, dishes, stacks of dictionaries. But something was wrong. On the living room table lay a photograph. Old, yellowed, its edges cracked. In it she was young, standing among people Anna had long forced herself to forget. Smiles, wine glasses, evening light. On the back, written in black ink, "Do you remember?" She dropped the photo as if it had burned her. No one should have had it. She had destroyed every trace of those years. And yet here it was, a proof that the past was not erased. That night's sleep never came. She paced the apartment, touched bookshelves, checked closets. She felt like a stranger in her own home. The mirrors unnerved her. Another woman lived in them, bolder, more dangerous. The woman she had once been. At dawn Anna stood by the window, holding the photograph. It no longer seemed like coincidence. It was a message. Someone had found her. Someone new. And that someone was playing a game. She knew only one thing. Her shadow had returned. And no new walls, no new names would save her from what was already coming. A letter without a sender. For days Anna lived on edge. She tried to keep her rhythm. Work, meetings, city errands. Outwardly nothing had changed, but inside every cell of her body braced for impact. The unknown was always worse than the threat you could name aloud. The photograph lay locked in the bottom desk drawer. She couldn't bring herself to throw it away, but she couldn't bear to look at it either. The words "Do you remember?" ate at her from within. On the third day, returning from the office, she found an envelope in her mailbox. Plain white, no return address. Ordinary, except for the handwriting. Her name and surname were written in a hand she recognized instantly. She froze in the stairwell, clutching the envelope so hard her nails dug into the paper. Impossible. That person couldn't have written to her. Not now. Not after everything. That person no longer existed in this world. Back in her apartment, she locked every bolt and sat for a long time with the envelope in her hands, unable to open it. Finally, she drew a breath and tore it open. Inside lay a single page with a few lines, written in that same familiar hand. Your mirrors cannot be trusted. The past has opened its doors. We are not finished. No signature. No date. Anna read the lines again and again, searching between them for an explanation. Her heart pounded so loud it filled her ears. Someone was toying with her. But who, and why now? She covered her face with her hands. Memories surged like a flood she could not outrun. A dark cellar, the smell of damp stone, voices whispering in the dark. She remembered swearing never to go back there. And now, the writing, that handwriting. Anna grabbed her phone. She thought of calling someone, but who? She hadn't had friends she trusted in years. Colleagues knew her only superficially. She had no close family left. She had built her life carefully so no one could trace it back to its roots. The only option was the police. But what could she say? Someone sent me a letter with strange words? They'd shrug. And to explain why that handwriting terrified her, she couldn't. That would mean revealing everything she'd hidden all these years. She placed the envelope and letter on the desk, turned on the lamp, studied every stroke of ink as if they contained more than the words. Her hands shook. The paper still felt warm, as if it had been written only moments before. That night she lay awake, hearing only one phrase in her head, "We are not finished." She knew this was the beginning. The next morning Anna woke earlier than usual. She felt compelled to check the mirrors. In the hallway she stopped before the large one, the same that had frightened her days before. She stared at herself, waiting for the smallest delay, the faintest flicker. And then, it seemed the reflection tilted its head a fraction before she did. She recoiled, nearly knocking over a vase. That afternoon, another envelope. Inside, a copy of the same photograph. But now, one face had been cut out. Someone had carefully sliced a person away from the scene. On the back, "He's gone. Are you next?" Anna collapsed into a chair. Cold rippled down her spine. This was no memory. This was a threat. She opened a hidden box she had kept for years. Inside lay a single key. The key from her old life. She had never had the courage to throw it away. And now it felt like the key could open doors best left closed. She squeezed it so tightly the metal cut into her skin. Someone was forcing her to remember. Forcing her back to where she had sworn never to return. She lifted her eyes to the mirror. For an instant, the face staring back wasn't hers at all, but the young woman she once had been. Smiling, reckless, dangerous. The face she had tried so hard to escape. And she understood, there would be no more escape. The room behind closed doors. Anna tried to convince herself everything was under control. That the two letters and the old photograph were nothing more than coincidence, or some cruel joke. But deep inside she knew, this was only the beginning. She walked the streets of Kiev, scanning the faces around her. It felt inevitable that among the crowd would be someone who knew her too well. A man with his hood pulled low, a woman in a wide hat, even teenagers with headphones, everyone seemed suspicious. She realized she no longer looked directly at people. Her gaze slid across their faces, searching for hints, for signs. At work Anna was cold, focused. Her colleagues took it as part of her nature, believing she was simply a strict, withdrawn woman who disliked small talk. Only one young editor, Marta, dared to say, "You look like you haven't slept all night. Are you okay?" Anna answered with a curt yes, and spoke no unnecessary words for the rest of the day. That evening, returning home, she found the apartment door locked as usual. No signs of intrusion. Yet something felt wrong, a faint trace of cigarette smoke, a smell that had no reason to be there. She moved through the rooms. The kitchen was in order, the bedroom unchanged. But when she opened the living room wardrobe, a small black key fell from the top shelf. She recognized it instantly. Just recently it had been inside the locked box under her bed. And yet here it was, placed where she could not miss it. She picked it up. The same key from the past, smooth metal scarred by years. Now it seemed to demand, "Use me." That night was unbearable. Anna lay awake, listening. In the silence, it felt as though there were other footsteps within the walls, light, unseen. Suddenly, she remembered the old house where she had once stayed with them. There had been a room no one entered, except the chosen. She had always sensed that behind those locked doors something dangerous waited. Now, in her own apartment, the feeling returned. She imagined another set of doors hidden behind her bedroom wall. And the key in her hand seemed meant for them. Morning came with a sharp knock at the door. She opened it to find a postal worker holding a small, unmarked package. "Sign here," the woman said flatly. Anna signed, shut the door, and opened the package. Inside was a small wooden box. On its lid was carved a symbol she knew too well, a circle divided into 4 parts. The mark of the circle she had once sworn to leave forever. Her fingers shook as she lifted the lid. Inside lay a single sheet of paper with an address, an old neighborhood on the city's edge. Beneath it, a message: "The room is waiting." Anna sat staring at the paper. She knew it was a trap, but she also knew the truth. Until she went there, nothing would end. The past would never let her go. All night she wrestled with herself. She imagined the dark stairs of the old house, the dust-choked corridor, the damp smell she remembered. She remembered the whispers behind those doors. Every nerve in her body screamed, "Don't go." And yet something stronger than fear pulled her toward that address. At dawn she took the key from the drawer. Heavy, cold. For the first time in years she admitted the truth. Her life had been only a mask. The real life waited behind those doors. She put on her coat, slipped the key into her pocket, and stepped into the dark morning. A double world. The old neighborhood greeted her with silence and the smell of damp stone. The buildings looked frozen in time, as if 20 years had passed them by. Peeling facades, windows webbed with cracks, trees growing wild and leaning into the sidewalks. The sun was just rising, casting the street in an unreal glow, like the set of a play, motionless, lifeless. Anna walked slowly, clutching the cold key in her coat pocket. The address led her to a 3-story building with a shadowed entryway. She stopped, drew in a long breath, and stepped inside. Dust and the scent of old newspapers filled the stairwell. Each step creaked under her weight. On the second floor stood a door with peeling paint, locked, familiar. This was the place, the very one where they had once gathered, the people she had tried to erase from memory. She pulled out the key. Her heart hammered so hard she struggled to fit it into the lock. But the key slid in effortlessly. The lock clicked as if it had been waiting for her all these years. She pushed the door open. The room was nearly empty. A table stood in the center, a few chairs covered in dust, and a large mirror hung on the wall. From it emanated the same chill as the mirror in her own hallway. Anna stepped inside, and time dissolved. She was 19, her first time in this room. Around her stood older people, watching her with smiles that carried something unsettling. On the table lay papers, diagrams, forged passports. She had been young, fearless then. She liked the feeling of being part of a secret, something bigger than ordinary life. A tall man with dark eyes placed a hand on her shoulder. He said, "In this world there are 2 realities, the one everyone sees, and the one that belongs only to us. If you choose us, there will be no way back. She nodded without hesitation. She believed ahead of her lay power, adventure, true life. That night she learned how easily a person could become someone else. They taught her to forge documents, alter her voice, wear a mask of expressionless calm. The mirror on the wall was their symbol. You can always have another reflection. Anna had reveled in it. She felt chosen. And yet somewhere deep inside a whisper warned, this is dangerous. Now she stood again in that same room, but empty, lifeless. Only her footsteps echoed back. On the table lay an envelope. She picked it up and unfolded it. Inside was a photograph, the same one she had found at home. But this time the face cut out was her own. In the hollow circle someone had scrawled in ink, "You don't belong among us." Panic rose in her chest. She remembered the man's words, "There will be no way back." But she had gone back. She had escaped. Was that even possible? Walking away from the shadows? She turned to the mirror. In its depths stood her younger self, the same fire in her eyes, the same reckless spark. The reflection smiled. "Why did you come back?" she whispered. In the mirror, the lips moved before hers. This was no trick of imagination. She stumbled back, nearly toppling a chair. The room felt like a closed circle, a trap where past and present fused together. Anna snatched the envelope and fled. Cold morning air struck her face, but her heart continued to hammer. Her life was splitting in two, one world of offices, cafes, polite colleagues, the other of shadows, mirrors, letters without names. And the two worlds were no longer separate. They were merging into one, and she stood at the center. At the tram stop she clutched the envelope and knew this was not the end. This was only the first step back into a past that demanded her choice. And this time, it seemed, there would be no choice at all. A stranger's voice. The phone rang for the first time in the middle of the night. Anna woke with a jolt, as if someone had yanked her out of sleep by the hand. The clock on her nightstand glowed 3:20. She picked up the receiver. "Hello." Silence. Not the dead silence of an empty line. This was different. She could hear breathing. Shallow, raspy, far too close. "Who is this?" Her voice cracked. The breathing lingered a few seconds longer, then the line went dead. Anna sat frozen on the bed, clutching the phone, a trail of cold sweat sliding down her spine. By morning, she tried convincing herself it was nothing. A wrong number. A prank. But the next night the call came again. And again, only breathing. On the third night, when she lifted the receiver, she heard a whisper. Barely audible, blurred, but the words were clear enough. "We're still here." Anna dropped the phone as if it had burned her hand. From then on, her days became nothing more than waiting for the next call. She feared the night. She would sit in the dark, listening to her own heartbeat. The mirrors in her apartment seemed to wait with her, silent, black surfaces filled with reflections ready to speak. She decided to start keeping a journal. She wrote down every detail, the time of the calls, her dreams, her feelings. She believed if she pieced it all together, the picture would make sense. But the notes only deepened the chaos. Her dreams grew heavier. In one, she sat in a dark room facing an old mirror. From the reflection stepped out a younger version of herself. The girl sat opposite and began to speak. "You betrayed me. You left. And I stayed here." Anna would wake screaming, and the phone would immediately ring. Breathing. Sometimes, soft laughter. Her grip on reality began to slip. Work suffered. Clients complained of delayed translations. Colleagues noticed her strange look, but no one dared to ask questions. Only Marta once said, "You need rest. You've become someone else." The words stung. Someone else. Exactly what Anna feared. That Friday, when she returned home, she found a package waiting on her table. She didn't remember unlocking the door or letting anyone in. Inside was an old journal. Hers. From the time when she was still in the circle. Many pages had been torn out, but some remained. She read her own words without recognizing them. "We are preparing." He said the mirrors will open soon. "I dream of being someone who isn't me. Sometimes it feels like another person lives inside me." Anna flung the journal aside, as if it were alive. She had no memory of those entries, or maybe she had buried them deep. That night, the phone rang precisely at 3:20. She didn't want to answer, but the ringing wouldn't stop. Relentless. Endless. She snatched up the receiver. "What do you want from me?" she nearly screamed. This time there was a voice. Clear, steady, muffled as though from the other side of a wall. "Come back, or we'll come for you." Anna pressed the receiver to her ear, trying to place the voice. Then it hit her. The man with the dark eyes, who had once laid a hand on her shoulder and said, "There's no way back." But he couldn't be calling. He was dead. She dropped the phone, staggered back against the wall, curled up like a child. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. She understood only one thing. The past wasn't just haunting her. It had come alive. And now it was speaking with her own voice.